What's your name?
My name is Tristan Cote.
And what sports team do you play here at
So I play on the men's hockey team.
Yeah? All right. Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender? How did that impact performance or motivation?
Yeah, so my younger sister, she played for my high school team, which is an all-men's team, well, all-boys team, and she got cut in middle school, and she really felt down on herself, and she went to go play with boys in trips, and she was too strong, and it just, at some point, it makes you feel like you don't belong in places you do. And it kind of makes you resent the sport you grew up loving.
Yeah. Do you think gender stereotypes affect how athletes are coached or trained?
Oh, definitely. I think they're very outdated. I don't mind old school coaching. Like many teachers teach in an old-fashioned style, but I think these stereotypes are outdated. They just are untrue, and they just demoralize most athletes, and if not all athletes, without any positive reinforcement.
All right. What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in a gender category they identify with? How do you think this impacts sports overall?
With the ongoing Trump administration, it's been a lot of controversy. I personally believe, look, if you identify in a certain sex, that's amazing, and I think you do belong in the sport you sexually identify with. I just don't think, or I'm still unsure of the biological advantages that males and females have. For example, the swimmer who performed very well on the female category, which dominated for many years. I'm still unsure and, quite frankly, not enough educated on the subject.
All right. Have you noticed any differences in how coaches and fans treat male and female athletes?
Yes. I think. What does that make people feel? I would say it just creates a difference where there shouldn't be, because an athlete, in my opinion, shouldn't have any sex or biological temporal association to it. In some sense, like all athletes should be treated in the same way, same fashion, because it just harms the sport and the history of it.
Yeah. All right. Do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition? Why or why not?
No, they don't get treated or funding or media attention at all. So that, much like question 3, I think it all goes with there's a lot of history played into that. For example, some sports exist more in the male dominated era, especially, for example, basketball and the WNBA. I think at some point we should be reaching for equal pay and equal media coverage, but I think there's a lot of history that people neglect, and in some sense, I think one day all female and male sports will be equal, and I hope so, but for now, I think it's just a history-based issue.
All right, thanks, Tristan.
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Ethan.
What sports team do you play on?
I play for Paul Smith's college men's hockey team.
All right. Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender?
No.
How did that impact performance or motivation?
It didn't, because nobody I know has ever been affected by that, and I've never been affected by that.
All right. Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
Yeah, I guess they could. I guess maybe.
What are your thoughts allowing transgender athletes to compete in gender categories they identify with? How do you think this impacts the sport overall?
So, a transgender woman would be playing with women?
A transgender woman
would be
That-
playing with women.
that
A man that
identifies
turned
as a
into
man.
a man that turned into a woman would be playing with women.
Yes.
Yeah, that ain't allowed. I don't agree with that.
No, you don't agree with that?
Not
Why?
at all. Because I mean, they have physical advantages, and it's completely unfair to the woman.
Okay.
You know that Olympic swimmer? That was, I got a lot of problems with this.
Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
Coaches and fans?
Yeah.
A lot in fans. Like, personally, all of my coaches have never treated, like, different genders differently. But fans definitely do.
How does this make you feel?
I mean, the coaches, I got nothing to say about coaches. Fans, I'm one of those fans, so I mean, it doesn't really make me feel in any certain way.
Do you think male and female athletes are trained equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition? Why or why not?
No, I don't think they are, because a lot of professional sports are, it's based off the revenue that certain teams bring in. So if women obviously don't generate as much revenue as men do, so they aren't going to get as much. Was that the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender?
No.
Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
No.
What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with?
I do not think they should be in there.
Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
No.
And finally, do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition?
Probably, I would say that they're probably not treated equally. I feel like men get more coverage than women do on media and funding and everything else. So.
Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender?
Not me personally. I know that in school, specifically one girl would always talk about how women, especially her main topic was women that played for the U.S. national team soccer would get underpaid compared to the men, even though they did better. But I think it just boils down to like ad revenue and how many people watch a sport. But it never happened to anybody that I knew. I don't think so.
Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I think coaches definitely lean into some of that stuff more, but I don't know too much about like obviously how girls are coached. I know that because I played a lot of different sports. I know that guys are, it's all mainly about like strength. Besides, unless you're playing like a sport like golf, where it's more about like thinking about your shot or the way you're swinging. So I guess it might depend on the sport, but.
What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with?
I think that one's weird because I think that if a girl was trying to play a men's sport, they might as well try, or if a transgender person wants to play in a men's sport, they might as well try, because the way I see it, men shouldn't play or a transgender person that's trying to play in a women's, like if they're a man before and they're trying to be in the women's league or whatever, they shouldn't be in that, because just genetically and biologically they're more athletic than women. So.
Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
You said coaches or fans?
Yeah, have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely, when like men play sports, there's definitely more of a like expectation of like, I don't know really.
Higher performance.
Yeah, higher performance than women.
And then lastly, do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition?
Men and women. Probably not. I mean, but the only reason I think that's not true is because overall men's sports have just been around longer than female sports, and so they're like the amount of people that pay attention to men's sports is obviously a lot more because it includes men and women, where women's sports just are relatively more new than men's sports are, so a lot less people in general watch women's sports than men's sports.
Who am I here with today?
Ryan,
And what sport do you play, Ryan?
baseball.
Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender?
Yes, I felt limited one time while playing a girl because I didn't want to injure her, so I was less motivated to play.
So that impacted your motivation and performance.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think gender stereotypes, for example, boys are stronger or girls are smarter, affect how athletes are coached or trained?
I've only had guy coaches, so I feel like most of my guy coaches have pushed me a little bit harder than a girl coach would.
Mm-hmm.
So in that aspect, I do think guys are a little bit
Okay.
more.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with? How do you think this impacts the sport overall?
I don't think it's fair. You should play the sport that you were born as. It's like LeBron comes out as a woman, sticking him in the WNBA is not gonna. No woman wants to play against LeBron.
So you think women would feel less motivated in their sport if someone came in
Yes.
identifying as a female? Okay. Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
I feel like female athletes get a little bit nicer of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of times I've been on a bus getting cussed out by a guy coach. I feel like females get it a little bit more easier.
Mm-hmm. How do you think the fan base is different in male and female sports?
There's usually a lot more fans at a guy's game
Mm-hmm.
than there is a woman's sport.
Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel?
It doesn't really affect me because I'm a guy, so
Okay.
it doesn't bother me.
And do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition? If so, why or why not?
Nah.
Why do you
Guys
think
definitely
that?
get covered a lot more on the media. They get paid a lot more. But I feel like it's because most people that watch sports are guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not turning the TV on to watch the WNBA.
Okay.
I'm probably going to watch the NBA.
Okay.
I'd watch
Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender?
I personally have never felt judged, but it's probably because I'm a guy.
An answer? Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
No, I don't really think so. I know like there's different preseason things. Like I feel like there's more bonding involved in girls' sports, but I think the physical aspect's all the same. Everyone's doing their fitness, everyone's lifting, everyone's doing everything they can to get in better shape.
What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with?
I think there has to be a line drawn because I think like girls that are going to guys, that can be allowed, but guys going to girls just have a genetic advantage, which I think just makes it unfair.
Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
I personally haven't really, but I think there's a lot more stereotypes involved, and like I feel like women kind of get hated on more. Like I don't know, seeing like some of the games, like a lot of people like say how it's like slower paced and judge it like based off the speed of the game and like the physicality aspect, like people hitting each other. Like I know in like men and women's hockey, it's a lot more physical than men's, and I think that's why they probably get more like viewers, but I don't think so really.
And then lastly, do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition?
I think it's really talent based, and like, not to be rude to women, but I think males have like a higher ceiling because of their genetics, so I think they get more coverage. But I think for me, watching soccer, I prefer watching like the women's national team, because I think it's a lot more like technique based, because they don't have that physical aspect, so they have to have like a better first touch. Like, they beat everyone with speed, so they have to like learn how to play around that.
Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender?
Yes, definitely.
Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with?
I have a lot of thoughts on it. It ranges from what age they are up to where they're actually competing at what level. So,
have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
yes.
Do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition?
No, I do not.
What's your name?
I'm Alex Martin.
And what sport do you play here at Paul Smith's?
I'm on the Woodsmith team.
Alright. Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender? How did this impact performance or motivation?
I mean, I personally haven't, well, I'm on a team that's very male dominated, so there's definitely a lot of like locker room talk that's pretty gross. I generally don't feel I haven't felt discriminated against by like coaches as much. I also don't have a lot of friends that are in sports, but that's the biggest thing for me, is that teenage boys are gross.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger, girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, an easy example is that the Woodsman team, we have a male and a female coach, and I have heard a lot of stereotyping about like the way Keith teaches and the way Kate teaches.
Yeah.
And I think that women are always seen as weaker, even when that may not be the actual case.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with, and how do you think this impacts like the sport overall?
Okay, so here's the thing. If you are a transgender athlete and you have gone through all of the rigorous, structured training and like testing and surgeries or whatever you choose to do to align with your gender, in order to be seen as that gender that you present with, you've had to go through so many surgeries. You no longer have the strength or whatever you may have been assigned at birth. If we're going to use the example of like trans women are stronger than cis women, I have competed with trans women. Usually they are weaker than cis women because they have gone through all of this gender reassignment surgery or hormones. And I think generally it really does not make as big of a difference as people think.
Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes, and how does that make you feel?
Again, I'm not a big sports person. I definitely think that female athletes are over-sexualized to a crazy degree, even if you look at like uniforms. You know, it's the tiny shirt and the tiny shorts versus full jerseys. And I think the way fans talk about athletes can be really sexist as well.
Do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. It's a pretty straightforward question in my mind. I think we have the idea that sports are a man thing already, so you know there's more media coverage, there's more funding. What am I saying? But I think especially if you want to get into race, black women, their sports are practically non-existent. And yeah, I think generally men have more money, more support, even better trainers, better equipment, whatever you want to look at.
All right, thank you. All right, what are your names?
I'm Maddie. And I'm Sydney.
And what sports do you guys play?
Women's soccer. Women's soccer.
All right. Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender? How did that impact performance or motivation?
I haven't personally experienced that. Yeah, me either. I don't know anybody Who has?
Do you think gender stereotypes like boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
I don't think so if it's the same gender in the sport. But if genders were to mix, then it could.
I agree.
Okay. What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with? How do you think this impacts sports overall?
I don't think transgender should be able to play in like the opposite sports. I think they should play in their biological sport just because of like how they're composed like DNA wise.
Yeah, I agree.
Have you noticed any difference in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes, and how does this make you feel?
I think they're treated differently. I think like fans tend to go to like more male dominated sports versus female.
Do you think male and female athletes are trained equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, and or recognition? Why or why not?
I don't think it's funded equally.
I think men definitely get paid more. It's probably because they get more viewers and stuff like that, so that's why they get paid more.
I agree.
All right, thank you.
All right, and who am I here with today?
My name is Mallory Jarman, and I'm a cheerleader at New Bern High School.
Okay, and have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender? If so, how did that impact your performance or motivation?
So I personally haven't, because I've cheered on a team that's co-ed, which is with men, or all girl, and it really hasn't affected our team's strength, I feel like. But I know when you get to the collegiate level, it can be more of a big factor, and that's why there's different divisions for all girl and co-ed.
Do you think gender stereotypes like, for example, boys are stronger or girls are smarter affect how athletes are coached or trained?
I think for cheer, the stereotype of boys are stronger is a big play into it, because I think the male athletes sometimes are given more opportunity since there are less of them and they're stronger, so they might get extra coaching, or like I know, for instance, we had a choreographed like routine, and since we only had one guy, the guy basically was in the center the whole time, and it was kind of more like a focus point other than other girls that have been there even longer than that male athlete and may have deserved more of the spotlight.
So what are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with? How do you think that this impacts the sport overall?
So I feel like if there is a like male to female athlete, that they should compete in the co-ed division and they should not compete in the all-girl division, because that basically gives whatever stunt group they're put with, they'll probably be a back spot, because back spots are normally the strongest and the tallest. That gives that one stunt group like a competitive edge because of the strength of that one individual. If it's the opposite way, I don't see it being really an issue, female to male. But I would just say that if you're going to choose to be a transgender athlete on a cheer team, that you should always compete in the co-ed category and not in the all-girl category.
So have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes?
I have noticed a difference. I feel like a lot of like where my category is, like cheer team, drill team is the dance team at school. A lot of times fans will sexualize them more, even other athletes. I know drill team has had a lot of issues with it, or cheer, because not only do we do competitive cheer, but we do, sideline cheers, and we get harassed by players or whatever. But also it's not even considered a sport sometimes, even though we're working all year round and we're lifting, we're competing against other teams just like how football would or soccer would. So I think that kind of is based off of gender, how we kind of get more sexualized or even seen as weak or not really sport.
How does that make you feel?
It's frustrating because you put so much time into it, and most people, like baseball, they play for 3 months out of the year, they get their flowers and whatever, and everybody appreciates them. Or football, they play for a certain amount of time, not even the whole season, while we're still cheering for basketball, football, and competition, and we get like not nearly as much funding. Cheerleaders have to pay for their own stuff. Football players get it for free. It's frustrating that you have to put so much more into it and you get so much less out of it.
Yeah. Now, adding it onto that, do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition?
Definitely not. Easy no. I mean, obviously, people say that women's sports doesn't get the same funding as male sports because not as many people watch, but the statistics these days aren't really showing that. You know, if you look at the WNBA or things like that, like women's sports can be very popular and draw in a lot of money. I know we as a cheer team, we draw in a lot of money. We make a lot of money from fundraisers, from whatever, but we don't really get the benefits of that. And a lot of our money goes into a combined pot that gets shared with male sports, and they get more of it than we do sometimes. So I think we definitely don't get the same media coverage. We definitely don't get any of the glory. We are kind of there as like a supporting role. But they don't realize that some of these dancers, some of these cheerleaders, soccer players have been putting in just as much work, if not more, and they get less out of it than somebody who plays like football, baseball, male-dominated sport.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Who am I here with?
This is Jonathan Ross.
Okay, and what sport do you play?
I played soccer for 18 years, and I've coached it now for about 8.
All right. Question number 1. Have you or someone you know ever felt judged or limited in sports because of gender? If so, how did that impact performance or motivation?
I don't know anybody personally that's been impacted by it. You know, it wasn't really a problem when I was a player, and now as a coach it hasn't really become an issue. We don't really have any hybrid teams out here. We have enough people to where we can have boys and girls teams.
All right. And do you think gender stereotypes, for example, boys are stronger or girls are smarter, affect how athletes are coached or trained?
I don't think it affects the player until the coaches want it to.
What are your thoughts on allowing transgender athletes to compete in the gender category they identify with? How do you think this impacts the sport overall?
I think overall it's a very big impediment and detrimental to the work that we've done all throughout time to get the sports to where they are now, and I think it's a big degradation to the game.
Have you noticed any differences in how coaches or fans treat male and female athletes? And if so, how does that make you feel?
I've coached both male and female sports. I think that girls get coached a lot harder than boys do, actually, and I think it should be the other way around.
Really? Do you have an example?
I think it's more so at the younger age,
okay,
where the girls are coached a lot harder, and I think it takes the right coach with a set of boys to get them where they need to go. You're trying to turn them into men.
Perfect. Do you think male and female athletes are treated equally when it comes to media coverage, funding, or recognition? Why or why not?
I think that it's probably 80-20 towards females getting coverage, at least in how the media pursues it, versus if it was a perfect world, it'd be 50-50 funding, coverage, all the above.
All
I
right.
think that's the right way to do it.